Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is the France 24 debate. We're looking at the bitter turn that the row over family values in France has taken. 8 months ago, there was a same-sex marriage bill that was approved in France, but there have been big demonstrations. This Sunday, there was one that was peaceful. The week before, it was quite violent. We're here to talk about it with historian Jean-Marie Salamito. We're also back with Franck Margain of the French Christian Democratic Party, Christophe Martet, journalist at YAGG magazine, and Jean-Marc SANCHEZ, Franco-Spanish attorney. Welcome back. Weighing in on all of this discussion this Monday morning, the charismatic Interior Minister, Manuel Valls, denouncing what he calls deliberate misinformation regarding a bill that was originally, again, in the pipeline for April on the status of the family in France.
The so-called family bill won't include surrogacy nor medically assisted reproduction, and the government will oppose amendments introducing these. It's absolutely clear. Also, demonstrators kept referring to this gender theory supposedly being taught in schools, but it's a lie. In a moment of confusion, it's important that we should state our position very clearly, especially when some try to undermine the Republic's foundations, including its schools, its secularist schools.
All right, so there you heard the Interior Minister saying there was no gender theory to be taught, also saying that it's a lie that surrogate mothers were going to be, again, back in the legislation that's, again, now been put once again on hold. We've heard from France's former Justice Minister over the weekend, Robert Badinter. He's the man who wrote the bill 3 decades ago, banning the death penalty in this country. He calls the demonstrations of a week ago Sunday the first since Nazi occupation that featured openly anti-Semitic chants. He said to Le Parisien newspaper, "I would have liked to have seen stronger reactions from the government. Let us recall each time it's necessary that the French Republic cannot tolerate these chants, no more than it could tolerate cries of 'down with Muslims' or 'down with Arabs.'" Franck Margain, this week it was peaceful. A week ago, though, there were people among the slogans, who were quite strong, making anti-Semitic remarks. There were arrests. How do you explain that?
Actually, a week ago was a different kind of protestation. As far as I understand, I didn't go to that protestation. They were just, against the French government, against the economic policy, against everything. And you had in this movement, obviously, the extreme right, all kind of people who are not, who I think are not representing French. When this weekend you had, just families and with children, and it was much more what I call the French population, the people, if you want. And that, for me, is a big difference. But I just want to come back to what Manuel Valls was talking about this morning. In the French Parliament, and I've got to say that to all our watchers, you couldn't issue a bill, the government go to the Parliament with a law project, but actually every individual MPs could add something.
Could put amendments on it.
Exactly, what we call amendments. So the fact that, we were absolutely convinced and sure that, many MPs would have put, amendment on, PMA and surrogate mother and so on. And that's the reason the government didn't go through, because he knew that, putting a law in the Parliament would have been amended by the MP. And if you said don't amend, you just withdraw the right of the MPs to make the law. So that was a crucial decision, and I think they were right to withdraw their law and their project just to, come back on peace.
Before the break, Jean-Marc Sanchez making the point that it's probably too early to say just how French views are evolving on all of these issues. But do you get a sense that when you look at the tone of the debate that's happened, that France, there's a larger segment than we thought of France that's more conservative, dare we even say sometimes, who wants to roll back this bill, and that actually it's been presented as something that was the march of time, that we were all leaning towards same-sex marriage all over Europe. But in fact, it's not that simple. The pendulum is swinging perhaps the other way.
Let's say they are vocal and they are making a lot of noise, but is it a majority? I mean, if you look at the polls, all the polls shows that same-sex marriage, even procreation, assisted procreation, and even adoption is approved by a large majority of people, and that was in the program. So why do we elect people? This is what I say. Why do we elect people, and why do they have a majority? Is it to govern as the program was, or is it just to listen to people, to look at Twitter? I mean, this morning, Val said PMA, so the procreation, assisted medical procreation, will not be in the family project law, and now this bill is even repealed by Jean-Marc Ayrault. So from one morning to the evening, the government is contradicting himself and is looking at the figures of the demonstration and
so
say,
you'd like to see the government be more steadfast. I see you were shaking your head, Jean-Marie Salamito,
yes,
but it was one of François Hollande's campaign promises there would be same-sex marriage.
That's true.
And PMA.
But when we vote for someone, we do not accept everything in his program. We have always the right to demonstrate against one point of the program or another. And we know that at the end of last spring, there was in France a majority against not exactly same-sex marriage, but against adoption and against this idea that a couple can be a couple of mothers or a couple of fathers, and we can deny the right of a kid to have a father and a mother. That's the point. I think there is a very big tolerance in the French society. It was possible, I think, to have a civil union between homosexual people. It would have been a solution. But the problem is not a problem of, as you told, family values. I don't care with family values. I care with human dignity and the right of kids.
All right, well, let me on that point bring up a graph here. The French view of marriage is one thing. The number of those getting married, well, it's not very high. In fact, it's fallen to a spectacular low, boosted only by the 7,000, there you see the numbers, the 7,000 same-sex marriages that were celebrated last year, 231,000 marriages celebrated this past year. I guess we should congratulate Mr.
Thank you.
But I would on say his. But when you add up weddings and civil unions, the numbers of weddings would be even lower if it wasn't for same-sex marriages.
It's not a problem. It's just you're speaking about just 1 year. 1 year of success, perhaps, for a new sort of marriage. But let us see the future.
It's not a new sort of marriage, it's marriage. It's
marriage. I'm a historian.
I've been married in the town hall with the same text than others.
Sure, it was
and I would like to say, what do you do with the children that are now in a gay and lesbian family? You're talking about respect and family. We respect and we want the dignity for these children.
Sure,
and there are thousands of children who have no existence because
they have existence. No, that's a lie. That's a lie of the propaganda of same-sex marriage.
It's propaganda. One of my colleagues in YAGG, I tell you, she's a lesbian mother. She had no right before the law passes. So don't tell me it's propaganda. Please, this is the propaganda that you're making.
Rights.
But they have no right. If you go to the hospital, who are you? Are you the mother? No, I'm not the mother. I'm not the biological mother. Okay, so you can go and you have no right to see your child.
We can
so
find
please,
solutions.
don't say it's propaganda. It's the truth that
precise solutions
that people
instead
were suffering.
of destroying marriage.
So we are not destroying. I've not taken nothing from you. I mean, you can marry. I can marry. You can adopt children. We have children. I can have children. I don't want children, but that's another point. This is all that happens in 2013. What I don't understand is we are not taking nothing from people. We are just trying to make people have some rights. Lesbian women are denied their rights, and let's say transgender people are denied their rights for tens of years.
But this is my question again, and I'll put it to Franck Margain. For those who espouse traditional values, is the enemy, quote unquote, same-sex marriages and civil unions, or is the enemy people who just don't have any commitments whatsoever?
No, but I think you don't take the point where it should be. I mean, we are not talking about enemy, or we are not talking about who is right, who is wrong. We are talking about, type of society you want to build. And that's the issue. And I agree with my colleague that nobody had anything against gay marriage. Where the point...
many people had something.
Please, I let you speak. Let me speak, okay?
Okay. But we
let me speak. Let me speak, okay? Where the French disagree entirely, that was with what we call affiliation. So they didn't want to see the children denied the fact that they had a biologic father and biologic mother, and to have in your I would say, certificate of birth the fact that you were born from two father or two mother. That was the point. And the real point was about what do you care about children's fragility. We all agreed that, same-sex marriage could happen because they were, in sort of fragile environment where they were.
But we're in a nation where nearly half the population now is born out of wedlock.
Yeah. But they still have a biological father and biological mother.
Is it better to have two loving parents than to have a single-parent family?
We're not talking about love here. Love has nothing to do with marriage. Marriage is how you do build the right and the protection when things are going wrong. That's my point. And actually, having people married with the same sex, I've got no issue with that. Where I've got an issue is pretending that the children have two father or two mother. That's just not true. And where we are now, we are in the debate where not only they pretend that children could have two mother or two father, and they want surrogate mother, and they want to eventually take the fact that they could get children with, surgery. We are all in a position where, children became sort of product. And where I am, I don't want to live in a society where you deny the children dignity. I never deny, same-sex marriage dignity. I understand why they want it. I understand why they want it to be recognized. What I don't want, and will never do, but to pretend that children are sort of, thing people could adopt because they have decided they are just the same children if they were, born from two fathers or if they were born from mother and father biologically and adopted. What we should have done is we should have, changed the adoption law. We should have created a mariage pour tous without difference, and within the adoption we should have, make a difference between biological birth and between adoption. That's all. And that's where the debate will go on and go on and go on for the next 20 years.
So I'm really happy to hear that Mr. who is near Christine Boutin is now pro-marriage for all. This is good. So, but what about the fact that a celibate, a single person, a single mother, a single father can adopt? And
it's equally wrong.
And so that has been here for 40 or 50 years.
No, we did not, because after the Second World War, you had so many orphans that
wrong?
We've decided that an uncle or aunt could adopt.
Why is it wrong?
That became wrong.
Why is it wrong? I mean, the father and the mother...
Because you've got less children to adopt than potential.
So I don't understand why
a lawyer or a public man should do is to protect child, and to protect a child is to give him the maximum chance of to be loved by someone who is a father and a mother. That's as simple as that.
But the family cell is not a bubble, it's not closed, it's not a prison. A child is confronted to other women, other men. I mean, if you live in the society, you see that the influences you have, the culture you have, the education you have is not just your parents.
But it's the important part. It's an important part.
My parents were divorced, and I don't think I'm different or I've had problems because my parents were divorced. They explained to us why they were divorcing, and then we could see our parents, our father, our mother, but my education was also made with other people, my grandparents, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles.
Your own case doesn't mean that you should not think about what the society you want to
get married said, we will repeal from the civil code the term father and mother. We will say parents one, parents two. That's wrong. Nothing has been repealed.
That was an original project.
Everything is propaganda.
Jean-Marc Sanchez.
Yes, we don't have such a big issue in Spain about that. I mean, to make a long story short, only France can afford this kind of problems. I mean, in Spain we have far more serious difficulties. Let me just tell you one thing, François. We were coming a long way. At the time of Franco in Spain, there was, right after the Civil War, Ministerio de la Mujer, Ministry of Women, basically, in order to protect the society against the bad influence of single women. And then Spain has moved into what is supposed to be, according to some people, I mean, it's not a judgment value, it's just a fact, one of the most advanced countries in Europe.
Well, there was this huge period of sexual liberation right after the Franco era ended. Would you say that what's going on right now is a bit of a pendulum swing the other way? Well,
I think, once again, Spanish society is very conservative, and we all know that marriage is not a fairy tale wherever it is, whatever you call it, but still, the society is very traditional. And basically, we just had a new government after the elections. Mariano Rajoy took over, and the Partido Popular, the Conservative Party, exactly did what they say, and the people have voted for them. It's very different from the French system, and you cannot change the law or twist the law at the Congreso de los Diputados, the Spanish parliament. The law is what it's supposed to be. You discuss it first, then you don't have the amendment system. For instance, in Spain, the surrogate mother are absolutely prohibited, and they will, I think, ever be, or at least for a long time. You cannot do anything you want. Adoption law is extremely and very, very precisely enforced. So I think it's not a step back. And once again, François, people talk more about what's going on in Spain now outside Spain than in Spain.
All right, well, certainly they were talking about it here in France on Saturday, because on Sunday there were those who we've been talking about who were demonstrating. On Saturday, it was women and men demonstrating in support of those who marched on the Spanish capital against a government plan to restrict access to abortion.
"35 years ago, there were 100 of us women in a plane. We were like terrorists. I don't want that for my daughters."
At my age, I would never have imagined I would be here, fighting for something that I think we should already have, a social right, which we've got, and which we will never give up.
Franck Margain, what's your reaction to what's going on in Spain?
To be honest, I was discussing that with my colleague. I was surprised that they want to go that far back in the abortion legislation. I'm not against abortion. I'm personally against, which has nothing to do with my political engagement. I just want to be sure that, abortion is something which remains something important, which remain, protected, which remain, in a way of protecting the mother who could, get influence from a boyfriend, from their parents. I believe in life. So my personal belief is to do everything you can to protect the life to come, but obviously nothing against abortion, because I've seen as an history that, abortion have always existed, illegally or legally. Now, I prefer the clinic system where you are protecting with your health, but now where we went in France, I was very surprised that they want to step away this meaning of stress and
yes, because right now the French legislation is from 1975, and it says that when you go for an abortion, you have to say that you're under duress.
Which they never did, but that was, a way of thinking it's an important act. Now the government has decided to take it out. Not a big issue, honestly, because you've seen that it has been a debate for a week. But in my own belief, further and further, we go to a society where the life, as I said, the children, as I said, the families are not an important part of the system. And I believe, as a politician, that families, women, mother, children are the key, the vote of the society. And that's where we differed.
All right, we have a reaction from a viewer on Facebook saying, "I can't help thinking what century this is, that we're still debating same-sex marriage and the right to adoption." Jean-Marie Salamito, your thoughts on where is the debate going then in France and in Spain?
I don't know well the Spanish situation, so I prefer to speak about France. But I think there is a tremendous illusion. This idea of the march of history, the march of time, it is the necessity of the freedom, of the conquest of rights. I think this is silly. There is a concrete history with movements in one direction or in another, but this idea, we are in 2014, and so what? That's a very elementary and simplest conception of history. The problem is to know what we are doing as a law, as a policy, is good for the human being or not. That's the problem. The problem is of philosophy, of values, of choice, of moral debate, not this illusion of a sense of direction, a rhythm, a speed of history.
So what I can tell you, sir, is that it's better for me and my husband to have this marriage, because now I know that if he has problems or if I have problems, we can support each other and get some support. I know that when I'm going to die, I'm HIV positive and I survived AIDS, but what will happen next? So I know that when I will be dead, he's younger than me. I hope he can get this pension, this retirement pension. So this is simple fact, simple things. And I know that the law is protecting us against homophobia. You know, it's not just words. When you say I'm against the gay marriage or I'm against homosexual, it's not just words. People are being beaten, people are dying, people are living in countries where death penalty is still applied, and even in France, people are dying because they are gay or lesbian or transgender. So please remember, there are people concerned. It's not just about a right of this or a wage of that. No, yes, it helps my life and it helps the life of millions, and I hope that this law about PMA and transgender law will be applied, because it will help people. How can you live? How can you work?
You're for slavery. This surrogacy is obviously.
I'm talking about PMA. I'm not talking about GPA. So I'm talking about this. So,
but it's.
I don't understand your concern.
But
yes, of course. I hope that you live in the society, and I hope that you think, okay, we can make progress in life. I mean, denying people from rights, and giving them rights is it something wrong? Is it something not positive? No, it's something positive.
Take right from others.
We are not taking rights from others.
Children.
No, the children, they don't exist.
PMA or GPA, you are taking out of them.
They don't exist before. They don't exist.
That's the issue.
The one that exists, they don't have rights right now.
Yes,
they don't exist.
I understand what you are telling me about your rights, about your husband. So I accept this with no hesitation. But the problem is, we have a minority, a homosexual minority, which is fully respectable and who wants to conquest some rights. But with adoption, or we speak the MPA, we produce new minorities, the new future minority of children with no father and mother, with no couple of father and mother. That is the problem. In appearance, I agree with you, in appearance it seems to be a conquest of new rights and something interesting in appearance, but the reality is that other problems are coming.
It has been years and years since gay couples or lesbian couples have been having children, and we have studies that show that these children are no problem.
Studies said the contrary.
Have you heard the auditions in the National Assembly before the?
No, they were just on one side. You know,
they were not just on one side. There were many people invited.
Excuse me, there are.
And you have to say that
admitting that half studies say there is no problem, and half studies say there is a problem. There is a principle of precaution. I just want prudence. Admitting that we do not know. Before we do something, we have to think about it.
Prove to me that a mother and a father is better for the growth of a child. Prove it to me.
Some studies tell it.
The changing lines when it comes to marriage, when it comes to adoption. By the way, in that regard, having a president who's an unmarried father of four, not so untypical in France. But according to one sociologist who spoke to the International New York Times' Célestine Bollin, that doesn't mean that anything goes in this country. The French more or less accept the various forms of private life, says Christophe Giraud, but they're shocked by the cheating and the lies with the relationship. In that respect, Jean-Marc Sanchez, the president, is he symptomatic of a time?
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you something for sure. It will never be possible that the same thing that happened with Mr. François Hollande in France happened in Spain. If this would have happened to Mariano Rajoy, he would have resigned immediately. He would have been forced to. There's no way you can actually have the same kind of situation.
The Prime Minister has to be the purveyor of traditional
in
family
a
values.
certain way, he represents the country, and the function speaks for itself. I think this debate is very emotional in France, and in Spain it's more likely to be a secondary problem. The crucial issue is the economical crisis.
As it is here, and that's where we're going to have to leave it, unfortunately, because we have to hand back. But I want to thank you, Jean-Marc Sanchez.
Thank you, François.
I want to thank Franck Margain for being with us. Christophe MARTET.
Thank you.
Congratulations again on your wedding.
Thank you.
And Jean-Marie Salamito.
Thank you to you.
Thank you for being with us here for the France 24 debate.